we are living in totally unpredictable world. Why I'm saying this? A very simple example. Only one day before what happened in Israel and the atrocities committed by Hamas, and after that by Israeli state, no one was able to predict that event and what happened. No one in global community. In United Nations, where we were in September this year, in every global arena and think tanks, no one was even mentioning what is going to be in Israel. The question is, what is going to surprise us tomorrow? Which kind of horrible events and development are going to affect all of us tomorrow and after tomorrow? In that context, stable initiatives, visionary initiatives are crucially important for the peace and development of the world in the future. In that context, especially, Initiative Belt and Road is one of the very few in global arena in past few decades that is helping to everyone. Not only China, but every single country which is on that direction. Let's remind ourselves about current situation in global arena. War in Ukraine is only outcome of the different wars that happened in the past few years. Before that, we had a war in Iraq, war in Syria, war in Libya. And this is crystal clear that new world orders are going to be outcome of the consequences of that wars. Different conflicting zones and different wars that are going to happen in some regions. This is crystal clear that new world order that we need right now are going to be, once again, outcome of the balance of the power. And this is crystal clear that even new world order that has to be established for the generations that are coming are going to be faced with many, many problems and many, many difficulties. Why? Because we have a policy of double standards which is existing for decades and years in the multilateral institutions, unfortunately, and specifically that double standards policy is, in fact, the leading idea among the big powers for decades. If we have a double standards, we cannot talk about principles that are foundation of the world orders and that has to be foundation of the world nowadays, and that has to be foundation of our common relations and bilateral and multilateral relations. The policy of double standards is destroying the world nowadays. We have to be focused on that policy of standards that has to be implemented in the global arena in a very efficient and very principled way. Dear friends, we have a new situation which is also outcome not only of the war, but also of the fast and extremely specific development of China and some other countries. China has been saving the world during the economic crisis. Chinese economy, which was unbelievable, 10 and 12% growth, was a saving world because China was a driving force of global economy. Can you imagine the world nowadays without such impact of China in global arena? At the same time, reforms that China has been implementing from the end of the 1970s until today has been also crucially important regarding stability of the world nowadays. I'm always mentioning, can you imagine that China didn't create fantastic process in terms of eradication from the poverty of more than 800 million people? Can you imagine the world nowadays with the threat of migrations that are coming from China? China is nowadays a developed country, not developed enough, but really stable and developed country. But can you imagine the world nowadays with 800 million people that are deeply anchored in the poverty, Chinese people that are creating specific threats in terms of migration to the Western world. China, with its own reforms, also was saving the world nowadays. And this is why China deserves respect and support in the global community today. In that respect, I'm taking into consideration the idea of the Belt and Road Initiative. Belt and Road Initiative is a very specific and very unique aspect of multilateralism, specifically in the situation when United Nations are losing credibility and United Nations are not able anymore, like it was in the future, in the past, to be crucial global multilateral institution. In that respect, we need more multilateral initiatives that are going to help United Nations to take over once again credibility and to be a leading institution in the world in terms of multilateralism. In one article I was writing about the Chinese way of modernization. And let me emphasize once again what I thought as a main contribution to modernization in the world nowadays. In the context of the Western modernization is always in the focus only how to create new wealth and new technical improvement. But Chinese way of modernization, from my point of view, is more harmonization. Harmonization is specifically very important for the world today. Without harmonization, we are going to be focused with more tensions and more conflicts in the future. I specifically see Belt and Road initiatives in the context of harmonization. Many people are criticizing China because of Belt and Road initiative, because China is offering the loans to the poor countries and China is bringing those countries in a very difficult debt crisis. I totally disagree with that. China has a great opportunity to create tremendous change in the global arena by harmonizing international relations. But China cannot do that without harmonization of its own economy, its own society. This is why China has a huge responsibility nowadays. China is hope. We've been living in the world where the United States in the Western world was a hope. Nowadays, China is hope. In that respect, harmonization that has to be in the focus of Chinese reforms in the future is crucially important. Harmonization in terms of green economy, harmonization in terms of education, harmonization in terms of international relations with other countries. Harmonization has to be foundation of the Belt and Road Initiative. Harmonization in international relations. Without such approach, we are going to be faced with more atrocities and more conflicts in the future. In that respect, I really appreciate and really respect what is Chinese contribution to the global arena and global politics nowadays. I just wanted to underline once again, specifically, issue of modernization, which is a great chance, not only for China, but also for the whole world. Dear friends, in that respect, I have to mention something which is specifically characterizing the Chinese initiatives in the world nowadays. Belt and Road Initiatives was pointed out and launched in 2013. This year, on G20, was the pointed out idea of the global corridor, new global corridor, by United States, India, Saudi Arabia, Emirates, and European Union countries. This is the idea that is coming 10 years after Belt and Road Initiative, 10 years later. Very interesting. Last year in European Union that was pointed out idea to help Eastern economies with a significant financial help, huge financial help. But that is coming 10 years after Chinese impact in Eastern countries that created tremendous success in building infrastructure and creating new potentials for Eastern countries. That means that the Western world is coming 10 years later after China in many, many aspects and initiatives in the world, which is not very healthy for global economy and global relations nowadays. But in that respect, we have to understand China has a really, really specific responsibility in the global arena, having in mind the initiatives and the actions that China is taking into the account, and China is triggering, and that initiatives are also very, very important regarding development in many different countries. And I'm finishing my thoughts with a kind of suggestions for my Chinese friends. This is 10 years after the idea of Belt and Road was launched in the international arena. I think that China has to be very careful with the impacts of Belt and Road Initiative. China has to take into the consideration all negative impacts, not only positive impacts, to learn from mistakes and to make corrections. If Chinese government, Chinese leadership are going to make a kind of corrections, I think that Belt and Road Initiative can be one of the most significant historical achievements in a global arena. Thank you very much for your attention.